he went and missed me by inches. And so at that moment, I'm jumping up on the trailer. At this moment, I don't care where. I'm just getting out of here. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Hayden, Alabama podcast, where we're Southern storytellers. I'm Philip.
I'm Shane.
I'm Clinton.
I'm Corey.
Rainy day in Hayden, Alabama.
This is a rainy month in Hayden, Alabama.
Record month is what I'm hearing.
A midweek early recording for you can sometimes be troublesome, but when I got up and heard the rain on the roof, I said, oh, he's fine.
Yeah, I'm available today, buddy. No problems.
You love to play in the dirt, but not the mud.
Not the mud. It's almost impossible.
I think it's time for some storytelling, and you guys have already determined who's going to be our first teller.
So I'm from Jasper, Alabama, and so I have really not traveled that much up until my 30s. So my first ever flight. So we fly from Huntsville to Washington, D.C., then Washington to Des Moines, Iowa. 2 great flights, no turbulence, no nothing. I mean, land, it was great. We ended up going to the show, had a great time. Well, we're flying back out, and our flight goes from Des Moines to Dallas, and then from Dallas to Huntsville. And so we get to the airport, we're in the TSA line, and all of a sudden Clinton starts getting texts like, hey, your flight's delayed. Mm-hmm. And so we automatically, we start knowing, hey, it's probably going to be a long, long night. So we're sitting there, you can see a storm moving in, and so we're all kind of just chilling. Well, Clinton, he walks up to the desk, and he's like, what are they thinking? Are we going to need to go ahead and book another plane for tomorrow? And the lady at the front is like, look, if y'all can get out tonight, y'all need to get out tonight because it's spring break in Des Moines. Everyone's leaving. All the flights are going to be booked up. Well, about that time, the pilot walks up, and he's like this, looks like he's a seasoned dude. And he's like, hey, he gives Clinton this confident speech. Hey, boys, if they give me the green light, we're getting out of here. Which Clinton's like, oh, that's awesome.
Let's go.
Let's go. Hey, wheels up, let's ride. I'm over there in my mind thinking, this joker is so old that this is his last flight. Mm. And he's going to try to renegade this.
Blaze of glory.
And get us up. And he's going to say, hey, I'm going to put this baby down. He's taking a shot here. And so they end up boarding us, loading us. And, hey, he gets on the intercom. And, he's got that cool pilot voice, hey, guys, we're going to try to get out of here, all that stuff. And he says, hey, it's going to be bumpy coming out, and it's going to be clear for a little bit. And then we're going to hit another storm about mid-flight, and then it's going to be bumpy coming into Dallas. And so I'm prepared for that. And mind you, we were actually sitting in the front row, one of the front rows. And so I told myself, hey, before I get on the flight, I don't have a lot of experience with turbulence, but I'm going to watch the flight attendants. I feel like that's a good gauge in my mind to tell whether we should be in trouble. If they're concerned, I should be concerned. And so we're sitting there, and we get out, and it was a little bumpy, but we're flying. Well, they start handing out the drinks and the stuff, and all of a sudden, fasten seatbelt light pops on. It starts getting real bumpy. And the flight attendant's like, okay. And all of a sudden we hit a bump, and it felt like that plane fell 5,000 foot. And that airline attendant took the basket of snacks and just threw it in the galley. Sat down, 4-point harness like Dale Earnhardt Jr. strapping up. And so immediately I go into, I'm going to die. That's the way my mind works. Immediately, I think my wife's going to wake up in the morning, look on Life 360, and see I ain't left a field in Oklahoma in 6 hours. Mm-hmm. And so Clinton, being a seasoned traveler, hey, I'm going to lean on my boy here. I'm like, hey, man, how bad is this? oh man, I flew out of Miami in a hurricane. This ain't even that bad, you know? And I'm like, if that's your gauge, like that's not necessarily the best gauge. Well, then I look over and this joker's eyes are closed.
Snoozing.
And no, that's not what I think.
Oh, he's praying.
I think he's talking to the Lord.
Yeah.
I'm like, this joker's praying right now. He's just trying to keep me calm.
Yeah.
Because that's what he does a lot of times. He's like, hey man, we're all okay. You know, and I think he's praying to the Lord. I'm like, do I need to start praying? Like, you know, so I go ahead and I'm like, you know, go ahead and make sure everything, you know, and then I like, but anyway, we end up getting through the storm, everything, land in Dallas, miss our connecting flight.
No, they canceled everything.
They did.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Everything.
They canceled everything. And so we end up having to drive from Dallas back home in a rental car, which is, if you've never made that drive, I'll give you some of the landmarks that you have to look at on that drive, and that's fields.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
There's not even a Buc-ee's on that side of you know, to stop at, but
It's 11 hours of fun.
oh, it's great. But yeah, that was one of my first flights, and man, it was quite a
It was the thing is the way the pilot was reacting, like when we were before we left Des Moines, was like when he said that this was his last hooray. It felt like that. Like he was. It's like he was
over eager.
Yeah, over
to get
eager.
in there.
I mean, you got lightning here, you got lightning there, and
What airline was it?
American.
Was it American?
Yeah, it was American Airlines.
American.
Yeah.
I always heard the Southwest pilots are old military guys. Like they hired a ton of military guys, retired military pilots, and they would fly because it was like, what do you mean we can't fly?
Right.
If you looked outside, it's sunshiny. Like, well, it's sunshiny somewhere, but man, we can make this. And so they would get in there and just take off. No worries.
Is there fuel in the jet? Good.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
That flight out of Miami that you mentioned about flying, and it wasn't a hurricane, by the way. I may have said hurricane, but I didn't mean hurricane because they wouldn't.
That's what I heard. That's
but,
what
but it was me.
That's
and my
your story,
right? Yeah. It was me and my wife. We were flying out of coming back from the Dominican Republic. I don't know. Anniversary. I'm not sure what it was for exactly, but yeah, that's a flight that we should have never, ever been on or left the ground. So we it was on 4th of July. It was the night of 4th of July, and so you know you're sitting there at the airport in Miami, and it's beautiful, fireworks going off, but there's a storm to the north, and we got to go north, right? I mean, we're from Bama, so we got to go north, and so we take off, and at first I thought we're seeing, this is probably, I don't know, 5-10 minutes into the flight. I mean, you cover some good ground in 5-10 minutes, right? And so we had already left Miami, and I'm sitting here looking out the window, and I'm like, man, there's I can see fireworks. But then I got to thinking that, man, we're too high to be seeing fireworks. And I all of a sudden realize these are lightning bolts, and they are going off everywhere around us. And I mean, to the point that the plane's just rattling when them things are hitting. And I truly looked at my wife and I said, this is it. There is no possible way we're getting out of this one. Because it was bad. And when I say it was bad, it was one of those that we didn't have no kids at the time. I just looked there and said, hey, I love you, but this is it.
Oh, we're already having our
down.
last moments talk.
Seeing glory.
Seeing glory. This is it. I mean, everybody's freaking out. Everybody on the plane's hollering, screaming. And I have no clue how we got out of that one, but that kind of set me up for you drop 5,000 feet. What's that?
Yeah.
My wife and I travel. When we have to fly, it's an ordeal. We're flying into Atlanta, and everyone knows Atlanta is a humongous airport.
Yeah, huge.
We finally get off the ground in Minneapolis, and I'm doing the calculations in my head. My wife is of no good because she's drugged up with Dramamine, and we have our 2 children with us. Holland is a very small child. She might have been 2, and Covey would have been at 6 at the time. And so I knew, okay, if we get there, we're going to have to be moving. We get in Atlanta, and I look at the screen, or I look at my clock, my phone, wherever, and I think we got 10 minutes to get from one part of Atlanta Airport to the other end. I was like, this is going to be near impossible. Yeah. We've got a buggy or a stroller, all the things. And I told Sarah, I said, we've got to go. When we hit the ground, it's time to go. So I had to wake her up from her stupor.
Yeah. You're going to need her.
Yeah, I need you. I need you to pull through here. We get off, we get on the train. And as soon as we exit the train, you look, and it's a 2-story elevator to get up to where we got to go. They're off.
Oh, you fixing to get to climb that escalator.
We get to do stairs at 10:30 at night in order to make our connecting flight. And mind you, I've said this on the podcast before. If you see myself running, catch up, because there is something bad wrong. My wife also in that same situation. We do not run. Philip's a runner. He likes to run. You enjoyed that. I get zero enjoyment from moving my feet quickly and for no reason. We head up the escalator. I've got Holland on my shoulders. I'm dragging Covington. I'm going, and I hear Shane, and I look behind, and she's holding that stroller up, and it's like an offering, like just
please take this.
Just take the stroller. So I grab the stroller, and she's doing her best to make those last few steps. And after I get to the top of the escalator, I don't turn around. I just continue, because I know I tell her what gate we've got to get to. We got to make it to the gate. And in my mind, I'm saying, if I can get to the gate, they won't leave her. They'll at least leave the doors open. So I'm running. I'm still in a steady trot. I don't know how far behind she is. And I hear my 6-year-old child begin to break down, and he's sobbing. And I said, "Hey, buddy, I know it's difficult, but we got to keep going. We got to get to." And I'm thinking he's tired of running. He's just had enough. It's 10:30. He's tired. He's ready to go to bed. And I said, "Buddy, we got to go." I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "We're gonna lose Mama." I turn around and look. She's nowhere in sight. And I said, "Buddy, you just got to trust me, okay? Yeah. She will catch up." So we finally make it to the gate, and I tell him, I said, "My wife's behind me. We're getting on the plane." And of course, Covey's still just steady, just squalling. And we get on the plane, and they hold the doors. She makes it in. But for that brief moment, Covey thought for sure,
Mama's going to be left.
Mama's gone. This is the end. It's just going to be us three.
We're starting over.
How are we ever going to make it?
I got one more little plane story, and then we'll go to we'll fly to another area. When I was 21, I booked a trip through AAA. I'm dating myself. This is way before online, and it was easy. So we actually had to go to the AAA office, and we booked a trip to Cancun, me and one other buddy. And I had been looking forward to this, and you know how that is, man, just how good it feels on the inside when you're looking forward to going to a trip like that. Day finally arrives. Everything goes off without a hitch. We get on the plane. It's a short flight down to Cancun, and we're so excited, about what's going to happen. We start descending, and the winds in Cancun that day were legit. Beautiful day, bluebird sky, but the wind was just, and the captain came over the thing and he said, "Hey, we're going to land, but it's going to be, you need to hold on, because it's going to be a little tight coming into this place." And I thought, okay, no big deal. We're here, baby. I mean, I'm thinking just set this thing down. He drops that bad boy. I'm talking about, how usually it's a pretty smooth descent. I mean, he just kind of noses that thing down. And I'm like, we're falling. I mean, we are descending at a high rate. I'm getting a little nervous. I look over at my buddy Drew, and he has a little more anxiety than I do. And he's kind of, he's touching things. He's kind of holding on to arms, And when we get down to where I can see the ground and the bushes and everything, That right wing, I'm sitting on the right side of the plane at the window seat. That right wing, I don't know how it didn't hit the ground.
Oh,
I'm talking about this is how he hit that thing. There's no way, you can't convince me that the only wheels that hit were those on the right side. I mean, we said, but, and then and I'm talking, shifted back down. All I could think about is I wanted to come to Cancun to have the best time of my life, but this is where it's going to end.
this is where you're going to die.
Yeah.
They're going to bury me in Cancun, the place that I was supposed to have the best time of my life. But he straightened it up, taxied around. We got off that thing and did have a wonderful time. But I thought it was all going to end right there just at the airport.
I think I only missed that trip because I don't have a passport, or I didn't have a passport at the time. I'm thankful now.
Us down here in Bama, you know, everybody calls us rednecks. I mean, that's what we are, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you know, we don't have a whole lot. You know, most times none of us have a whole lot, but we're proud of what we got, right? What we do is, you know, we do these storage sheds, we build these storage sheds, and that's what I've known my whole life. You know, my father started it back in '98, and tiny homes, all that stuff. But we offer financing on this stuff. So, but when you offer financing, there's a negative side to offering finances when people don't pay their bills, right? And again, going back to the fact that we down here in the South, we're proud of what we got, even if it ain't a whole lot. You know, we take care of what we got. And so I think I was 18, 19, somewhere in that age. I wasn't married, just single. And my father's like, hey, it's time for you to get into one of these trucks and deliver these buildings. Well, if you deliver these buildings to people, you also got to be the one that when people don't pay their bill, you got to be the one to go get it. And that's that. I hated that. Just the concept of the whole thing. You know, people feel like you're taking their stuff. I mean, they didn't pay their bill. So this is the first time I get paperwork. Hey, I need you to go pick this building up. Guy won't answer his phone. You know, we've done everything we possibly can to, get in contact with him and figure out what he wants to do. So this was down in south of Birmingham. It's what wasn't a really high end neighborhood, but it wasn't a extremely low end neighborhood either. But it was just a I figured this in and out easy. We ain't gonna be bothered. But again, it's my first one, so I have no expectations of how this all works. So we show up, me and my buddy Nick, and he riding with me that day because I knew I had to go pick up a repo, and I'm nervous. I'm scared. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm 18 years old, don't have a clue what I'm doing. First of all, I ain't even got the experience of delivering these things enough yet. So getting one. So we pull up to this house, and I see the shed sitting in the backyard. Okay, and there's these pit bulls sitting on the front porch, and these ain't no little these things are the ones that when you see them you're like, okay, I don't know if this thing's friendly or not, but I ain't getting close. And so I pull up to the front there, and we notice that there's no way for us to get to the front door to knock. There's no way, because we got these dogs sitting on the front porch. How are we going to get to the front door and knock? Pick up the phone and try to call. Again, no answer. So we say, okay, we're going to try this. We think they're chained up. There's nobody around. I mean, they should be out here if they did. So we back in there, get lined up with the shed, with the trailer and everything. And we got winches to pull the building up on and all that. And my buddy, he jumps out and says he's just going to jump on the trailer himself. And so that if these dogs are loose, he's at least on the trailer, right? Maybe they won't get up on there and get him. And sure enough, we get backed up to it. We think everything's fixing to go over just perfect, right? And we're in the back of the building. We're having to take it off of blocks because we put them on blocks, level them up and everything. And we got a jack back there, and we're jacking this building up and trying to get these blocks out. And I have my back turned to the left side of the building, and all of a sudden I hear, "What y'all doing?" And of course I'm in the middle. That scares me. I jump and startled, and he's like, "Y'all ain't." We ain't gonna say the words that were used, but you ain't getting this thing. And I'm like, "Sir, I start explaining. I pull the paperwork out and all this stuff. Find out this is just a neighbor. This ain't even the guy owning the building." And I just look at him and say, "Man, I don't really know what to do here. I want to talk to the owner because, you know, our goal is not to take this shed. We don't want to take this shed. That's not what we're in the business to do. We're here to supply storage for the individuals, not take their stuff or not take their shed. And long story short, he gets a hold of the guy. And so I'm standing at the truck at this point. We totally let the process of getting the building go because we're going to try to work this thing out. And here comes this little Civic. I mean, I hear it coming up the road. Flooring and come tearing in the lane, gravel flying everywhere, and jumps about a probably 16 to 17-year-old kid. And at that moment, I realized this thing's fixing to escalate to a level that I don't want to be no part of. I'm not here to I'm here to do a job. I ain't here to get hurt. I ain't here to you know, I know where we are. I know we're in Alabama, and I know how people feel about their stuff. I mean, and so he jumps out and he comes over, does his spiel, and I remain calm as best I could. I mean, I'm probably shaking in my boots. I mean, you've probably look back at if you had a video of it, you'd see real quick how I was acting. But this kid decides, I got an idea. Let me turn these dogs loose on him. Turn the dogs loose on him. My buddy has this crowbar, or this strap, you know, to strap down trailers, or, you know, what truckers use. Had no clue that he'd done this because he had went over toward the house. And all of a sudden I hear nothing but this deep bark within feet of us. And I spin around and to see this large Pitbull coming at me at full throttle. Luckily, my buddy was kind of standing off to the left, and he has that bar, right? And didn't hurt the dog. But he starts to swing it, which caused the dog to, you know, veer off. But he missed me by just, I mean, he went and missed me by inches. And so at that moment, I'm jumping up on the trailer. At this moment, I don't care where. I'm just getting out of here. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is my first one. Is this the life that I chose?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's not where it ended. So finally, the owner of the building shows up and he gets the dogs. We're up on the trailer. We're freaked out, and he gets the dogs back over and locked up, and we get to having a good conversation. And I thought this thing is, you know, settled down, and, you know, he's going to pay us, or, you know, it's not pay us, pay the finance company, and everything's going to be good. We're not getting the building. We're going to move on. So I have my back at this moment. I have my back in, like, I'm looking inside the truck, my door open, and I'm getting some paperwork out to get all this settled up. And the next thing I hear is, and I turn to see this 16-year-old kid coming around the corner of the house with a sawed-off shotgun. And in that moment, I truly thought, hey, this could be it. Because, I mean, the way he turned his dogs loose on us.
Yeah, he's proved himself at this point.
He's proved himself. This my first time out doing this, I'm going to die. I'm going to die here. And so I right away go into this, look, man, this ain't big enough for nobody to get hurt around here. You know, let's calm all this thing down. And everything starts to escalate to a point where everybody, like, they're hollering. My buddy, which, you know, he gets emotional and he starts to holler. And I'm like, guys, everybody calm down. This escalating this situation with a shotgun at 10 feet ain't going to help nobody here. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to get the law out there, get them involved, and get everything kind of settled. You know, once that happened, it seemed to kind of settle things down. But I realized real quick that day that us rednecks will defend ourselves and our property, whether it don't matter what it is, with our life. Mm. And that changed that day. It changed the way I view messing around with people's stuff.
Yeah.
And how quickly people ain't going to put up with that. Luckily, it all got settled in. Nobody got actually hurt that day. But I think of that story so much that close an emotion could have
changed everybody's
everything.
life.
It could have changed my life. It could have changed everything. And and there's so many other stories, man, with that whole repo stuff. That's just
Well, how did it end?
Well, so basically at the end of the whole situation, cops got there. They just, and I told the cops, I said, look, I'm not here to charge nobody. I know that this kid was just emotional. He's just trying to act tough, act big. His dad's there. He's trying to show off. And we came to an agreement after the cops got there to I'm just going to leave. I'm leaving. And we're going to let the finance company deal with this. I did tell the gentleman, I said, man, I just want to let you know something. I don't think that was very wise because, this finance company is not going to put up with this. They take care of their repo guys, and they just do. They've always done that. And long story short, it ended up in court. Not the repo side of things, the actual altercation. And the guy I told him this is a young kid. He's just trying to, he was just trying to defend himself, and it ended up turning out okay. I don't think we ever picked the building up. I think the guy paid at that moment. We never ended up having to pick that building up. I think that whole situation, he realized real quick that, look, it's better just to pay up on this thing.
No doubt.
Yeah. So yeah, it was scary, but oh man, as an 18-year-old,
that's a lot.
That's a lot.
I mean, in one day, that's a lot. Obviously, my mom had an idea about that. I was at the gym one day working out, and I went over to this guy's house who I'd never been over there to his house before to buy something after I left the gym. We were over there just hanging out, talking after I'd made the purchase, and up pulls this guy with a wrecker. And he gets out and is talking, and he's a cool guy. He was telling stories, and I was just enjoying being around him. And he said, well, what do you do for a living? At that time, I was 19 in school. He said, how would you like to make $100 a night? Now, let's go back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
$100 for 4 hours of work, because that's what he said. He said, if you can work with me from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. every night, I'll give you $100. All you got to do is ride with me, nothing else. I said, this is it. And I said, what do you want to do? He said, well, I repo cars. Well, what does that involve? He said, man, I'm so good at this. All I do is just pull up, latch it, and roll out. The repo company that I work for does not care the condition that I bring the car in, as long as it's brought in. And he said, and I always bring it in. I said, you can count on me. I'm in. Like, I will do that for $100 for 4 hours of work. I went home and was telling my mom about this new job that I had gotten to make $100 a night. Her eyes lit up. She bristled up like that old mama hen does. And she said, that is the last thing you're going to do. You'll be killed for that $100. You call him back right now and you tell him you can't do it. And then when I called him, he said, I understand. He knew the danger, obviously, and understood my mom's protection of her son. So you experienced the fullness of what I would have gotten to experience.
Yes, a full experience. And I could go on, man. There's so many times that, I got out of actually doing it probably 2-3 years later. But we're still in that same, business, and the stories that we get.
Oh, they're great.
Most of the time, a lot of my time is waiting. I'll wait on trucks to show up with dirt. And I'm sitting there and I'm at the end of a dead end road. If you're coming there, you're coming there for a purpose. There's no other way out. You're either coming because you live there or delivery of some sort. And I look down the road and I see a repo truck. And where I was at, it did not surprise me that I saw a repo truck. But when I saw it, I knew it was coming. It had to be coming to where I was at. And I'm beginning to think, I was like, okay, I'm paid up. I don't think he's coming after any of my stuff. But
you always got to
make sure, right? So he pulls up, and I was talking to one of the neighbors. He had ventured over and was just kind of shooting a breeze with me, and And I said, where do you think he's going? He looked me dead in the face. He said, I'll probably pick that car up right there. And I said, you think so? He said, oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what he's coming to do. No boy just come backed up, hooked it up, and it was the easiest transaction I've ever seen in my life. Like, this guy's repoing a car. Like, I think in my mind, I'm thinking the Repo Man, like on TV. You know, you ever seen those shows?
Yeah.
Man, they're always into some sort of bickerment. So I was expecting some sort of altercation. He backs up, hooks it up. He even goes in, like, door's unlocked, you know, and then he puts it in neutral like he's supposed to. And he pulls up next to me. He's chit-chatting like, man, we all having a good day? I said, yeah, we're having a pretty good day, boss. How about you? Oh, yeah, man, we're going on to another one. I said, okay, sounds great. So he pulls off. This is my first interaction with a repo. And I thought, this is completely different than what I expected.
TV.
Yeah.
That's right. This is not TV worthy. Because I was about to get my phone out.
Yeah. Let's see him come out of the house.
Yeah.
Here it is.
So the neighbor, and I looked at him and I said, how did you know he was going to get that car? Like, how did you? He was like, oh, it's like the fifth one they had come. And I was like, man, this is a normal occurrence here. Like, this is something that happens
Wow.
on the monthly. And the kid was only like 17, 18 years old. So, like, he couldn't have had that many cars.
Yeah. Anybody's first name. I saw Terry just coming to get another car.
Strangest thing I've seen.
like
It's like he was
his
coming
best
up
friend.
to visit. Yeah, hey, buddy, how you? It was like, man, this is odd.
Man, we had one experience where we did a midnight repo, middle of the night, and it was actually a dealership that put a fence around our buildings and said, we're keeping them. Just no, I mean, I don't know the whole situation. There could have been more to the story, but we snuck in there. It was down in south of Jasper, south of Jasper. I'm not sure what the town is down in there, but we
Just say Walker County. It does
Walker
not
County
matter.
is fine. Walker
I
County is
don't, I
fine.
don't like how you looked at me.
When I
Like
said
that.
Jasper,
Yeah. I'm from Jasper originally.
but we it was 4 trucks, and we pulled in this lot middle of the night. And we had to haul out, I think it was 25 buildings. So this was a in and out, and just crossing our fingers that nobody's going to show up there. We had to take fence down, which we had the court order and everything. We could do what we needed to do, but it was still, we knew that middle of the night was the best time to go in there and get it. But it looked like I'm telling you, it looked like we all had it timed like a SWAT moving in on this place, and we just all went in there loading buildings up, people running everywhere. And it's been there's just some crazy stuff that goes on in that world. I'm telling you, man.
Philip,
It is.
you ever had anything repoed?
No. No, I pay my bills,
The
man.
hesitation got me there. I thought for a second.
He's got to check all his files.
Yeah,
Just make sure.
That's a lot of years to think back through, but I have, to this point, successfully paid all my bills.
Hey, man.
Hey,
Thank the Lord
that's
for
good.
that.
Yeah.
Are you in trouble? Well, we hope you're not. But just in case you are, we know a good lawyer. Whitney Eiland here in Hayden, Alabama has law services, or maybe if you're not from Hayden, I'm sure she'd be happy to hear from you. So check her out at eilandlaw.com. We appreciate Whitney and her sponsoring the show.
At this point, we've talked about airplane rides, repoing cars, but you guys went on a mission trip a little while back that you got a good story from.
Yeah. We got to travel to Uganda, Africa. I got a good friend that's a missionary over there. And over there, when they cook, they need water to cook it with. So they said, hey, we're going to ride down and see where they get their water from, so you guys can kind of experience that. And it ends up being about a kilometer walk.
It felt further than that.
A kilometer walk, but it's downhill to the lake where they get it, and then they have to walk back uphill to the place. Well,
And it's steep down there.
It's steep.
This is steep now.
And so these kids get these what they call jerry cans, and they fill them up with water, and they tote them back up the hill. And these are 8-9-year-old kids that do this. Well, someone, I don't know who said it, but said, hey, why don't all of us, when we walk down there, we'll just take the cans, fill up the cans for them, save them a trip, And everybody's like, yeah, 100%. That's a great idea.
Of course.
You know? And so we're walking down, I mean, perfect day.
Beautiful day.
Great. I mean, no humidity. I mean, I felt like I was a new man.
Yeah.
Like I had air in my lungs. So we walk down the hill. We're filling up the cans and everything. A guy rides up on his motorcycle, which they call bodas over there, and he's blaring Alan Jackson on his motorcycle. I'm like, my goodness, I'm home. Man. I mean, this is great.
America.
You know, and so they start filling them up and everything. Well, they bring us everybody back there out of the lake. They bring back the jugs, and so I'm fired up. I'm like, I'm about to tackle this hill. This hill's gonna be mine. Like I'm gonna save these kids so much time, energy, effort. Like, you know, I feel great about this. And then I walked 10 steps, and I realized immediately that I was in trouble. Like 10, 15 steps up the hill, I'm already sucking wind. Like, I'm like, hey, this is bad. This is real bad, real quick type situation. And so all of us are walking up this hill, and one of the guys that went with us, he actually works out. And I know this is a shock to y'all, but I don't. So we're, you know, he's kind of behind me, kind of encouraging me. Hey, you know, hey, keep going. Don't you sit those cans down. And I'm like, hey, dude, I don't think you understand. One of my lungs is about to come out. Like, I got to do something. So I sit it down.
Some scripture, hey, you don't put your hand to the plow and turn back. Or when it turns back, he's laying on you, wasn't he?
He was kind of giving you a little bit of that. And so we end up sitting down. And you know, everybody starts doing the same. Hey, sitting it down. So we pick it up. You know, there's kids walking by and they're like, hey, you want me to take this jug from you? Like, no, I'm committed now.
I got this.
Like, I don't care if it takes me 3 hours. Like, I'm going to get this.
How big's the jug?
It's like, imagine, like, have you ever seen some of the like plastic, like gas cans?
Yeah. 5 gallon gas.
So cans? a little bit bigger than that.
Okay, so this is okay. Now that's making it okay.
And you got one in each hand. Yeah. So this ain't just one. This
you're doing a farmer's carry.
Farmer's carry up
a hill.
10 gallons.
Everything.
Okay.
So we end up about halfway to about 3/4 of the way up the hill. It starts getting real steep, and so I sat it down and I was like, look, like I'm talking to myself at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, we're having a conference call in my mind. I'm like, look,
I'm gonna be my own cheerleader here.
Like, look, you can't drop it.
You're the man.
I'm like, you can't drop it. We can't stay here.
We're working for the Lord.
We got to get up this hill, son. Like, we got to go. About that time, Lyndon, the guy that works out, he comes up to me. Now, mind you, I'm dripping sweat. Mm-hmm. I look like I'm about to die. He comes up to me and he goes, pulls out his phone. Here, Corey, smile. And I'm like, and there's a picture. I think it's on one of our, it's either our Facebook or on the episode we did. And I'm smiling, but you can see there's death in my eyes.
Oh yeah.
And so I get that final win. We get up the hill, and right as like we get to the building, so we got to go. The building's here. The hill comes up kind of here, and you got to go around to the back. There's this little, probably 5-year-olds like, hey, can I get that from you? No, I ain't finishing this off.
Yes.
So we drop it. Mind you, I'm over there, you know, just laboring and breathing. And my missionary friend looks over at me and goes, you know what we probably should have done? Is we probably should just drove the van down there. Y'all fill them up. And then we probably could have got like 2 or 3 trips like that. And I'm like, yeah, Micah, that's probably what we should have done.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. But yeah, it was brutal.
It was humbling because these kids, we're talking 5, 6 to 9, 10-ish. They're doing this 3 times a day.
Oh, they're in incredible shape.
3 times a day.
They probably got quads.
You know, the fact is, in all seriousness, it really broke us.
Yeah.
It really did to realize that these kids, man, what they have to face and what they go through, man, we complain, we whine about all the crap here in America, what we call crap, and it's their dreams.
Yeah.
It's just there's so many stories that we could go into about over there. Just the amount of gratitude that they have and things like that, and it's remarkable, really. I mean, just
they have less with more gratitude.
Oh, it's unreal. It's unreal. And their faith, oh man, their faith.
Strong.
So strong. I mean, you get into their worship services and just chat with them. I want to say this. There was a kid that came up to me at one of the orphanages, and I don't want to get emotional here. I know this is a story, but
it happens all the time.
It was serious, and I just asked him a question because I was just looking around and I was just heartbroken. And I asked him, I said, do you ever wonder, what tomorrow holds? And this kid looked at me and said, I mean, we're talking 6, 7 years old. He says, well, when it comes to things like that, God was faithful yesterday, and I have faith that he's going to be faithful today. I don't worry about where food's going to come from because I haven't went hungry yet.
That's strong, man.
Yeah.
Now there is something from over in Africa that I will say. So we're from Alabama, and we use the earth can be our urinal at times, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a tree that's hit it. So I don't want to go back to airport stories, but this happened. I get off the airplane on the way over there, and man, I gotta go. Like it's
time.
It's time. And you don't want to. Nobody wants to use the airplane, right?
Right.
I mean, nobody wants to use that. So I'm headed there. I tell the guys I got to go. I'll see y'all at the gate. I hit that bathroom and I open that stall door. Boom, and I look in there, and all I see is a hole in the ground. What am I going to do?
No
with
toilet.
That?
No toilet.
No toilet. It's the hole in the ground.
Better have good aim.
And I walked in there and I shut the door behind me, and I got to thinking. I said, you know what? That next airplane is going to have a nice commode.
Man.
We're going to wait on that. That was a big thing over there. Like their restrooms, I mean, you stop by a gas station, you had to carry dude wipes with and stuff like that because you didn't know what you're going to be facing. And yeah.
Makes you really appreciate the local health department here.
It really does. It really does. And one thing that happened to me while I was over there, we were middle of the night. We were staying at this place, and you know how it is. You wake up, and you got to take a leak, and you're stumbling into the bathroom, and I'm
step in the hole.
Yeah, this one actually had a commode. Okay?
Oh, okay.
This one did, and I flipped that light on, and I flip up that toilet seat. And I look down, and there's 4 frogs in the commode. You talking about waking up like that quick? Because I got to thinking.
Uh-huh.
My mind started to wondering, what if I had to do the number 2 there, and I'm sleeping. You can just imagine what could happen.
Oh, yeah, a little surprise there.
You get surprised real quick by a frog.
Jumping on up there.
Yeah.
What is also, in my mind, in that situation where there's frogs, there's sneaky snakes.
My question is, how do they get in there? Well, I guess there's a big old hole in the ground.
Well,
Just climb up in the pipe.
Climb up the pipe, baby.
Yeah, it was that because it happened to me too. We stayed in the same room, that hotel, and it happened to me later on that morning. There was one in there. And like I walk out and I'm like, you said there's a frog in the toilet? He's like, last night there was 4. I'm like,
I flushed 3 of them down. He's the only one that made it.
I'm like, what did you do? I flushed them. I'm like, I did too.
Man, well, they're probly used to it, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's a game.
Yeah.
It's a game they play. So who can stay in here the longest, buddy? The last one went down. I won.
That's so gross, man. Just thinking about that, that's awful.
Oh, the other 3's dodging the bullets.
Yeah. But Terry's snake story, one of the best stories that's been told on this show, was because the septic tank the ground had moved away from the edge, and that snake had crawled down in the septic tank up through the lines, and that's how it was in the toilet that night with him.
Oh man!
So if there's access, man, you
they'll
gotta
find
be careful.
The whole trip was just a great experience. We got to go on a land safari and a water safari.
Tell me about the land safari. If I go over there, that's something I want to do.
So it was really cool. So we got up like 4:00 in the morning over there, and so we're up before the sun and everything. We met our guides at the equator, and so they got this huge monument saying, "Hey, this is the equator," and and it's really cool. We got this video of the sun rising over the park, the safari park. And so, I mean,
just
I don't know that I've ever seen any more evidence that we have a creator that is intelligent and that wants to have a relationship with us, because it was gorgeous. Mm-hmm. So we get up, we go, and I mean, immediately while we're pulling up to this park, mind you, we had 2 cars. So I'm in one car, Clinton and a few of the guys are in another car. We pull up, and as we're about to turn into the park, a massive African elephant is coming out of the lane that we're trying to pull into, like he's merging into traffic and just walking. I mean, he was probably about 4 foot.
Yeah, like he walked right by the car, like he could. All he had to do is go. Just if he decided he wanted to wreck us,
it's over.
It is over.
Yeah. And he walked. I mean, he was about 6 foot from our car. And what's so funny? There's a video on our channel, and you can. Our missionary, one of my really good friends, is in the driver's seat, and the elephant's walking by. Mind you, you ride a lot of times with the windows down over there, just fresh air.
Makes sense.
Whatever. So the elephants are walking by us, and Micah starts rolling up the window as the elephant's walking by. I look over and I'm like, brother, that window ain't gonna help.
That gas pedal will.
Yeah.
One of the experiences we had was when the guides realized that, hey, someone's seen lions.
Yeah.
And we are way on the other side of the park. So you can imagine over there, this is dirt roads. Go South Alabama where there's nothing but dirt roads. So picture that, but yet rough as just rough, man. I mean, you shouldn't be driving, but creeping down these lanes. Well, hey, there's a lion on the other side of the park, and guess what? We got to get there so we can see it. All of a sudden, I realize that first of all, we ain't got no seat belts, and we're on the back of a truck.
Yeah, with elevated seats.
With elevated seats, so you can imagine how that felt. You're up high doing this, and these jokers are just. I mean, to the floor, man. I mean, we're hitting bumps. Feels like just throwing us around everywhere. And the bad thing is, nobody told me at that moment what we're doing. All of a sudden, we just go from creeping through this park to Mach 90 down roads that shouldn't be driven like this. And nobody's telling me what we're doing. And I'm freaking out like
we're going to run it from.
Where are we going?
Is Jesus meeting us over at this spot? We got to get there.
Yeah. But it was cool. It was a cool experience. And when we got there, man, seeing the lions with her cubs and everything, and
that was pretty cool.
Just the nature that you see. It put Africa in perspective of what Africa truly is as far as their animals and things like that. And just some beautiful animals, man. If you ever get to go do a safari, don't turn it down, because it'll change the way you view Africa in a sense. You hear the stories of the animals and things like that, but just how gorgeous the parks are, and how you get right up close to the animals. Mm-hmm. You get to experience them. The monkeys, man.
I've seen all them animals. I've been in Birmingham
Zoo.
Hey, well, I was going to say I was offered one safari and I didn't turn it down. I went on the one at Animal Kingdom.
Yeah,
it was.
Well,
they didn't drive like that.
They didn't drive like that.
No.
Did you guys know that the Hayden Alabama podcast has merchandise? And if you did you know that we just dropped some new shirts? If you'd like to check them out, you can click on the link in the description or go to haydenalabamapodcast.com and click on one of the shirts to check them out.
By now, you guys have probably picked up that these two gentlemen work at the same company. We hadn't really said a lot about the company, but Clinton has a good story that'll kind of give you a window into what he does.
Yeah. So, man, back 8-9 years ago, I would say I had this idea that I wanted to be, a business owner. My father always was a business owner, and he always, I think he done very well for himself, but it was more just family. It was, 5 employees, things like that. And he always was, passionate about what he did. And that led to me having a passion as well for business and things of that nature. And so back then, it was all about, what I could do. I wanted to be something. I'm gonna just be honest. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be something. I wanted people to know who Clinton was. Sure. In what I did on earth, really. And I had a business back then that it was a trucking business that's the way I led it. That's the way I ran it, and it failed. 100% failed. And so what changed me was this story. So I always tried to, I didn't understand what true leadership was. Just never did at that point. And after the failed business, man, I felt defeated. I felt like it was, what's the point? I'm not here to do this. I don't have the ability to do this. Well, the truth is, if you have that mindset, and if you have the mindset of it's all about you, it's probably going to fail. And so after that failed business, I kind of went back to my father's business and kind of started to help run that and things of that nature. But I started Yoder Metal back in 2010. I think it was 2010 when me and my father started it, but it was kind of just in the backyard. It wasn't the main business. It was kind of supporting the other business. And so after I had my failed business, I went fully into that. I said, let's take this to another level. I had a buddy that was big in the gym. He worked out all the time. And I was looking for someone to help run our business. We needed another hire. And I was chatting with my friend. He was working with me at the time. And he's like, man, I met this kid. He said, I met this kid at the gym the other day. And we got to talking. And he's been through so much in his life. He's been through a lot. And he said he uses the gym to kind of balance himself and to, he's determined that he's going to make it. His history would determine in today's society that he won't. Where he grew up, the people that he hung out with, the people he was around, in society looks at him, well, he's never going to make it. But he was determined to. And I said, you know what, let's give him a shot. So, and I'm not going to mention his name just out of respect. And so I had an interview with him. I sit down with him, and this is what I would say what changed my mindset of our business. I sat down with him, and emotionally, he was in tears and, just grateful to be able to sit down with me and have this conversation. And he gave his story. And man, his story is rough. It's a rough life. And I realized in that moment of that story that he was saying, and I'm out of respect, I'm not going to share the details of that story, but I realized something. What I do is bigger than myself. What I do is so much bigger than myself. So he and kind of going on with the story, we made the hire. He became a delivery driver for metal. He would deliver metal out and things like that to customers. And he would always show up. He'd be there, and he was just giving it his all. He was going. One day, he don't show up to work. No clue where he's at. I try to call him. Nothing. It's about 3 days later, I finally get a call from him, and he's bawling his eyes out. And he's like, he sharing the things that he was going through, and it hit me. I haven't been there. I fell back into the way as I was before. I haven't been there for him. And I listened to his story of what he was going through in that moment, the family struggles that he was facing, the things of that nature. And all I did was listen and encourage. And I realized right then in that moment that if I want to truly make a go, I gotta at this business, I gotta 100% look at my team, and it's about them, not about me, not about my success. How can I lead in a way that they truly are impacted in the right way? And it hit me. I was like, well, we have a great example in the Word. You know, Jesus was the perfect definition of a servant leader. Could not. I mean, he is the perfect example. Servant leader isn't someone that's just a pushover. He stands for something. He cares about the people around him. And we made a shift in that moment. And I went to Ramsey Solutions. They have a leadership program called Entre Leadership. And I put myself through that and been through it, still going through it. Got me business coaches, got me leadership coaches to really understand it. And it has become my passion when it comes to servant leadership in our business and everything. Our business is the playground to carry out our calling. That's all it is. It is the playground to make an impact on our team, on the customer that walks through the door. And what's so beautiful is the moment that God helped me realize that, now I have not only me, but my whole team has that same mindset. And I truly believe that we have a servant leadership crisis in today's world. I believe we do. I believe we have we have people that want to lead, but don't know how, that want to care about others, but really don't know how. Because we've lived in this world of just all about ourselves so much.
Yeah.
And man, I just feel that if we can help people realize that they can be the difference, and we can turn people into true servant leaders one at a time, that's how we change this chaotic world. I hear people always say, man, we live in a messed up time. This world is going to crap. It's nothing. And I disagree. I believe we can make a difference if we're willing to truly lead from no surface leadership, but from a place from within us that, first of all, God is the only one that can give you that. But it's from so deep down in that, what's Corey going through today?
Yeah.
How's Corey today? And not just be, and truly listen to it.
Yeah.
Like truly make it, be engaged with your team. And so again, I know that's kind of it's not really a story, but that is who we are at our organization. We make metal, we build buildings. But that is, again, only the playground to where we feel that God has called us to. And our calling is to help people unlock their full potential in servant leadership. So
that's encouraging. And so many times you hear that people don't leave organizations, they leave leaders.
Amen.
And what you're saying is kind of speaking to that conviction that there's a need for that, because people will go through a lot. They'll do a lot of hard work as long as they believe in the one who's
Amen.
kind of leading them there. But you also, along with Yoder Metal, the company, you guys have a podcast as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a crazy idea that we hired a social media guy to run all our social media accounts, and he was there probably a month or two, and he goes to Clinton. He was like, y'all need to start a podcast, and Clinton was a little taken back by it.
Yeah, I was like, why? Like a podcast?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like we built storage barns and we roll metal. Podcast?
And so I get a call. I was actually at baseball practice one night, and I love telling this side of it because Clinton is such a great leader to serve under, but still, when you get a call at 6:00 at night from the owner of the company, you clench up a little bit, And so I was like, I'm, yelling at 8-year-olds, telling them, hit them in the chest, and all that fun jazz. And I see my phone ring. I'm like, hey man. He's like, hey, listen, we're going to start a podcast and I want you to be the co-host of it. And I was like, what does that even look like? Like, what does that even mean? And so we started doing that. And the whole goal of the podcast is to help others lead with a purpose. And that purpose, we believe, is God breathed, God inspired to your story.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
And your experiences are leading you to that purpose. Obviously, I personally believe everybody has a purpose to, our original purpose is to love and worship God. But inside of that, we also have these other purposes where it's, hey, I'm a leader. Like my purpose is I sew quilts together, for this group or whatever to raise funds for that. But or whatever it is, we all have a purpose, and our job, we feel like, is to show where we've not done it great.
Mm-hmm.
At times.
This humility.
Our experiences, we love to talk about our failures on our podcast, things we've screwed up.
Yeah.
And how about those a lot.
Yes.
We wouldn't have a show if we didn't talk about it.
Right. And also, I want to say this too. One of the things that I believe our podcast is about is that every human being on this earth is a leader. Bottom line, they are. You have a brother, their younger brother's looking up to him. You have a pastor of a church. You got the congregation looking up to him. I mean, every phase of life, somebody is leading in some form of somehow. And our passion on the podcast is that you can see the importance, whether you feel like it's very small or large, that your leadership matters.
Yeah.
And we bring guests on to talk about their experiences, things that they're facing. We had someone on recently that's in the music industry, and just his story of the grind and how you wanted to stop, you wanted to give up, and so we had that a lot. We have just personal experiences, but it is focused on business mainly, and leading through business, and we believe that the next big movement when it comes to what's the word? Spiritual movement is in the workplace, because so many people have. Church is extremely important to me and to all of us, but we feel like a lot of people have gotten afraid of church, somewhat, and so if we can make an impact in the business world for Christ, we're called to be. That's what we're called to. We're called to be disciples wherever we are. Yeah. And so that's kind of what the podcast is about.
And how do they find it, and where do they find it?
You can go to Yoder's Talk Facebook, the Yoder's Organization. We don't have what you call Yoder's Talk on YouTube. It's called the Yoder's Organization, because there's other things we throw on there too, just cool experiences. But that's where you can find the podcast. Of course, Spotify. We're on TikTok. Pretty much all the social media accounts is where you
just throw a rock, you'll hit it as long as Yoder's Talk.
You even throw. I'll tell you what. You even throw Yoder's Talk into ChatGPT, you'll find us.
You're gonna find it. That's awesome.
So
in leadership, there's a lot of fear.
Oh, absolutely.
It can keep you paralyzed, and fear paralyzed me one time. I'm going to go back to 8th grade. 8th grade was a tough time. We've talked about this in high school, because at Hayden, in 8th grade, you were put up into the high school with everybody else.
Got to go to the old square.
Got to go to the square. But gym class could be 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, all mishmashed into one. That's the way my gym class was in 8th grade. And I went down to the boys' locker room to change, because you had to change before PE back then. And I went down there and saw the shenanigans that went down in that boys' locker room while people were trying to change. And I saw that one day, and that's all I needed. I said, I'm going to find somewhere else to change, some other way to get in gym clothes other than going down to the boys' locker room. The varsity boys basketball locker room was on the stage, and it was unlocked. So I would get there early, run in there, change my clothes, and then go out on the gym floor and get ready for class. That went on for weeks very successfully. Well, one day the gym coach caught me going in there. He was also the varsity basketball coach. He said, "What are you doing in the boys varsity basketball locker room. I said, I was just changing. He said, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to go down there. And I said, well, I don't want to go down there. He said, well, if you catch you in that locker room again, I'm going to take you to the office. Well,
Spoiled your plan.
Spoiled my plan. And the very next day that I went down there, the fear was what kept me from going down there. I ended up being the last person down there with 2 upperclassmen, and they were going to make an example out of me. And they tried to do a swirly.
That's going to do a swirly.
It was
You're just going to get put in the toilet.
Good old fashioned swirly.
And as an 8th grader, I realized you're either going to step up or you're going to get swirly. You're going to get swirly. And man, I showed up and showed out. I stayed out of that toilet that day. But fear can keep you from experiencing bad things. Fear can also keep you from experiencing good things. And you talked about leadership too, and this is about Jesus and his leadership and his vision. Let me give you some context before I read this. This is Acts 9, 10 through 19. The context is Saul was a Christian killer, persecutor, and he was on his way to Damascus with legal ability to apprehend Christians from Damascus and bring them back to Jerusalem. Well, Jesus had humbled him on the road to Damascus and blinded him, and he had to be led by hand into the city. And he had been in the city for 3 days, fasting and praying. And then that's where we'll pick up. So Acts 9, starting at verse 10. Now there was a believer in Damascus named Ananias. The Lord spoke to him in a vision, calling Ananias. And let's talk about 3 things real quick that can help us to overcome this fear so that we can glorify God. And the first one is to be available. And you talked about that. That's a lesson you had to learn in your business. You can get so busy and so caught up that you're not available. But what I want to call your attention to is in this moment when Jesus called out to Ananias, an ordinary believer, an ordinary follower. He wasn't some crazy, titled person. But Ananias responded to him, yes, Lord. That's how he responded. He was available and he just answered. Verse 11, the Lord said, go over to Straight Street to the house of Judas. When you get there, ask for a man from Tarsus named Saul. He is praying to me right now. I have shown him a vision of a man named Ananias coming in and laying hands on him so he can see again. And now here's where the second tip for overcoming this fear is. You'll see it in verse 13. But exclaimed Ananias, I've heard many people talk about the terrible things this man has done to the believers in Jerusalem, and he is authorized by the leading priests to arrest everyone who calls upon your name. But the Lord said, go, for Saul is a chosen instrument to take my message to the Gentiles and to kings as well as the people of Israel, and I will show him how much he must suffer for my name's sake. One thing that can keep us in fear is not understanding the authority of God. Mm-hmm. God has the authority. He doesn't care that he was a killer. He doesn't care that he was a dangerous man because he is stronger. Mm-hmm. He has more authority. And if we don't realize God's authority in life and in this world and in every action, the fear will overcome us. It's his authority we've got to go to. And then the third thing, we've got to understand how God chooses people. And it's his ability to choose people and elect people. Because if you notice, it says Saul is a chosen instrument to take my message to the Gentiles and to kings. And one thing that not realizing that God goes before us for salvation and other people that will keep us from doing is sharing. Because we immediately reflect back on ourselves and we think, well, I don't have the words to say. I don't have enough knowledge about the Bible. And we'll go, well, I'm going to be still and I'm not going to go. But we got to realize that it's the work of the Holy Spirit, salvation. And in this moment, what Ananias didn't know, but what Jesus knew, is that Paul was already humbled. Paul had already been blinded, and Paul was in position for this thing. But Ananias didn't have that vision. And without the trust and reliance upon God choosing people and doing that work before him, that he was scared and in fear and didn't want to do it. But let's finish it out. Verse 17. So Ananias went and found Saul. He laid his hands on him and said, Brother Saul, the Lord Jesus, who appeared to you on the road, has sent me so that you might regain your sight and be filled with the Holy Spirit. Instantly, notice that. This was all, God had it all worked out. Instantly, after he communicated that, Ananias communicated that to Saul, Something like scales fell from Saul's eyes, and he regained his sight. Then he got up and was baptized. Afterward, he ate some food and regained his strength. Here's what I want to ask you guys. Would you want to have missed out on this opportunity because you were so gripped with fear that you couldn't go and obey what Jesus told you to do?
That's good. I think I would have been, I think I'm afraid to say that I probably could have fell into that trap, just being honest. I mean, it's sometimes the human side takes over.
Absolutely. I'm not throwing rocks at Saul.
Right, 100%.
I mean, at Ananias. I'm not throwing rocks at him.
And the human side takes over, and you feel that, you miss or you forget the power that you have within you, the Holy Spirit and God, and that he sees the future. He sees way beyond and in my life, I see that over and over, over and over and over. And so the greatest moments, and I love that story because the greatest moments that I've experienced in my walk with God is the moments that I had no idea what I was getting into, but I went because I was called to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's when you can, I think you can truly see and become in awe of the power of God.
Yeah. Be available.
Mm-hmm.
Believe in his authority.
Mm-hmm.
And believe that God is still choosing people and electing people for
Amen.
his salvation. Those are three things. And I want to challenge you or encourage you and challenge you, believers who listen to the show. How many times has God called you to be Ananias and has a Saul waiting for you, but you let that fear and reflecting back on yourself instead of reflecting on his power keep you from having a story like this to come to fruition, and you be able to have the joy, the gladness, and the peace, and your faith strengthened if you would have just did what Jesus told him to do. Go. Just go. Any thoughts from you, big guy?
I don't know. I'm still kind of hung up on the swirly. I really...
Well, my fear would have kept me out of a swirly. It did keep me out.
I'm afraid, though. Are you sure you didn't tell that in reverse? Or is that the day where you learned how to give a swirly? Because I thought...
No. I've never given anybody a swirly.
Philip?
No, I have not done that. That's super gross. You know how I am about stuff like that.
my recollection just must be a little off today. I just thought for certain we were in that boys' locker room at some point in time as upperclassmen, and
no, I did not.
You didn't participate.
Did not participate.
Me either. I did not want to be a part of this.
Super gross. I'm trying to live like Jesus now.